we talk about vibrational frequency, and you talk about being tuned in, turned on, tapped in, and you've mentioned before about, if the tuning into a radio station, you want to be at 93.7 for the job, the money, the car that you want. How do you know that, you talk about if you're...
It's the satisfaction factor. We haven't talked about it today. You all know it anyway, but we've defined basically 3 steps to the process. Step 1 is the contrast causes you to ask. Step 2 is the law of attraction in your inner being. Focus and gather the cooperative components and set it right there for you to do step 3, which is let it in. And so
is there necessarily a specific frequency then, if it's just more about letting it in? And
well, we can't define the frequency because Esther doesn't have the mathematical or the scientific vocabulary for it, but we can speak it to you in emotional terms, and love is that highest, purest frequency. And it's the purity of the frequency. It's the purity of it. It's the lack of resistance in it. It doesn't have to be a strong signal. If it's not being contradicted with other signals being included, it is a strong signal. That's the best way of saying it. So it's appreciation, love, exhilaration. It's those feelings. But as our friend was saying earlier, it takes a little while for the momentum to gather about that. It might start out just feeling peaceful or fun or interesting or slightly interesting. We would encourage all of you, as a result of this conversation, in the next day or two, we never assign homework, but this is a fun game. Pick a subject that you've not had much interest in and just softly focus on it. It could be a thing, it could be a place, it could be just about any subject, but something that you don't have a lot of knowledge or current interest about. When Jerry and Esther moved to Tucson, and there were the big saguaros that were standing out in the desert, and Esther said, let's bring one home. And Jerry said, you can't just go get one of those. They're permitted. And Esther said, I don't know how we'd get it home anyway. And then they turned a corner, and there was one on a truck. And the truck had big claws, like a backhoe is a big shovel. It had big claws, and apparently it just picked one up and put it there. And Jerry said, we've never talked about this before. I didn't even know you really wanted one of those. We never had the discussion, how do you move one? And within 2 minutes, we're witnessing somebody moving one. Well, that's the way the universe works. If you have a thought that is pure. And the fact that it was a new thought, Esther hadn't thought, oh yeah, I've always wanted one of those, but I've never been able to move one. Or I tried to move one and it fell on my cat and killed it. There was no contradictory energy. And so in its purity, it came fast. There are things that you want that you don't have purity about because you beat them to death with your doubt. In other words, you've heard too much, you know too much. Your mother talked about it before you even were old enough to understand what word she was saying. It's complicated, but the law of attraction makes it not complicated. The law of attraction just sorts it out. So your work, we're over time here, we'll take a segment of refreshment soon. Your work, if you're really wanting to have fun at this, is just to find thoughts that feel good and focus on those until you can really feel your enthusiasm for whatever it is growing, and then watch how the universe responds, not to the bigness of your thought, to the clarification of your thought, to the pureness of your thought, to the pure, sweet desire. Because when you ask, it is given. But how do I get it out of the vortex into my greedy clutches? You ask in belief. Well, that's the part that takes a little practice. You have to stumble on some pure thoughts and see how fast they come. And then you have to find some thoughts that aren't that pure, that are all contradicted because you've heard too much about it, you've watched too much television, there's too many people have too many opinions about it, so you're all jumbled on this thought, and it's not going to clear up for you anytime soon, but you care enough about it that you've decided that you're going to clear it up. So you deliberately put your marbles in the bag on that subject and on that subject and then that subject. And the law of attraction, who is always true to you, shows you each and every clarified improvement that you make until you've got the hang of this. You say, oh, this is not hard. This is about me choosing and me staying true to what I've chosen. This is a really good time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.